Hey guys, I'm the 50s Kid. This is a 2007 BMW 335i, and it's got some issues with the boost pressure solenoids that control the turbo wastegates. Whenever I'm driving it on the freeway or just kind of driving it hard, if I get on the gas and I rev it up to around, between 5,000-6,000 RPMs, immediately I will see this icon on the dash in yellow, and this basically means that the engine power is reduced. There's something wrong with the engine, usually the turbos, and the engine power is reduced. So you can continue driving, but just you can't get on it. And if that same symbol appears in red, that means you have to pull over immediately and you can't continue driving. Anyway, I looked up the codes in my BMW scanner, and this is what they are. I'm going to put them here across the screen because I really can't remember the details, but they're basically related to boost pressure being too high. And it appears that you need to change out the boost pressure solenoids, and that should solve this problem. It's a real easy DIY, so let's get started. All right, guys, we are looking at one of the boost pressure solenoids right here. This is for bank 2, which is the rear bank, cylinders 4 through 6. The one for bank 1 is actually right here, kind of obscured by the coolant bottle. So this is basically a vacuum valve. This is the input vacuum, and this is the output vacuum. This is going down to the wastegates on the turbo. And basically, the wastegate is responsible for, it's kind of a little bypass valve inside of your turbo. And whenever the boost pressure gets to be too much, that valve opens, the engine opens that valve, and that diverts some of the boost straight into the exhaust so that it doesn't go into the engine. Now, the wastegates are normally open by default when the engine's not running. They're naturally open, and these valves need to engage them while the engine is running to close them. So they apply vacuum to the wastegate valve, and that's what closes it. So what the computer is detecting is, the computer obviously has a boost pressure gauge. It can tell how much pressure is in the engine because it's got a map sensor. So what's happening is it's detecting that there's too much pressure in the engine, and it's trying to open the wastegates, and I guess the wastegates are not opening or not opening enough. And that should be all down to these valves sort of malfunctioning. Either one of them is not working, or one of them is not working well enough, or maybe it's an intermittent fault that only happens when, at really high engine speeds. So what I would really like to do is test this right now to figure out which one of these is bad. Now, I've already done this on this one. I've already gotten this, basically I pulled this line off. You see, I just kind of pulled that off right there, and it was actually pretty difficult to do that. And what I needed to do was get my pick, and I sprayed it with a little bit of silicone spray. Just sprayed the tip of it, and I kind of reached down, and I reached underneath the line, and I kind of got it, worked it up under there, and that silicone spray kind of, it definitely like breaks the seal, you know what I mean? So that's what I did on that one. I managed to get it out of there. I haven't done the other one yet, but I have tested this one. So the way I did that was I put a little golf tee in this line right here, because when the engine's running, these lines are kind of teed together. Not exactly sure why that is, but they're teed together. So when the engine's running, that if this is going to be a vacuum leak, essentially, I don't think it's going to really matter all that much. I don't think it's going to cause too much of an issue, but I decided to cap it anyway, just in case a code set. I don't know if a code would set, but I just want to avoid it. And then I have this vacuum gauge from Harbor Freight. So I'm just going to hook that up to right here. Cool. Sorry for the interruption, but we have to thank this week's sponsor, which is OEMBimmerParts.com. I love this website. They've got super fast 2-day shipping. They've got multiple warehouses all over the US, so they can get your parts out to you as fast as possible. And I love their website. It's well categorized. There's not a lot of extra stuff. It's just all the most popular parts that you're gonna need, and they're the OEM brands. They do also have some quality aftermarket brands as well, if that's what you're looking for. So if you are in the market for BMW parts of any kind, please check out OEMBimmerParts.com. So let's start the engine and see what happens to the gauge. Let me get this gauge in the shot. All right, let's do it. Well, that was interesting, guys. I think we already found the problem, but let's go ahead and test bank 1 just to be sure. Okay, I already pulled the gauge out. Let me put this back in where it goes. All right, let me get us set up for number 2 for, well, solenoid number 1. So I'm just trying to reach down here and get this up underneath. Line is a little dry rotted. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, let's repeat our test on bank number 1. Let me rev it now. That was about 3,000 RPMs, about 4,000. That was pretty high. All right. So I think it's pretty clear that bank 2 is the problem. When you rev the engine and then take your foot off the gas, that's when the wastegates are supposed to open, and the valve should be opening and dumping the vacuum to 0, which is what's happening on bank 1, but it's not doing that on bank 2. It's just going back to 10 inches of mercury. So it seems like bank 2 is the bad valve in this case, but we're just gonna go ahead and change both of them because you might as well. All right, guys. It's easy enough to get to the bank 2 solenoid back here and kind of get it out without taking anything else out, but for the bank 1 solenoid, it's going to be really, really difficult. And honestly, if you try to do it with this thing still in place, you're just asking for a headache. You know, why do things the hard way? My philosophy is just get things out of the way, give yourself room, because honestly, it is faster to do it that way. What we're going to do first is we're going to remove this vacuum canister assembly altogether, just kind of get that out of the way. You could potentially do it with that in place, but what I really want to do is just take this loose and just sort of move this off to the side. I'll just sort of hold it over here with like a tie down or something. That'll get it out of the way so I can work. But the reason I want to remove this is simply because there's a lower coolant hose connected to the bottom of this thing, and there are 2 vacuum lines coming this way and connecting up underneath these canisters, and you really need to take those vacuum lines away so that this has enough room to move over here. Maybe there's potentially enough room, but I'm just concerned that these vacuum lines are kind of brittle, and for some reason the vacuum line going to this guy, it's actually it's wrapped around the bottom of this kind of bracket down on the bottom, and it's sort of, it should not be that way. I can tell that this thing's been out before because one of the bolts that's down here is not there anymore, one of the nuts. So I can tell somebody's had this out before, and I can also tell that because this is not a BMW fastener, so somebody's been in here doing something. So I'm concerned about that line being brittle, and I don't want to break it because I'm just not prepared to change all the vacuum lines yet. We'll do that in the future in we'll do that in its own standalone video, but not in this video. So first off, I'm just going to remove this and kind of get it out of the way. So I see a 10. 10 right there. And then we might need an extra long extension for this, because there's basically 2 nuts, and yeah, I need a little longer extension. I'm going to show you before I do this though. All right, you see right down in there on the bottom, there's a nut missing from there. And then over here and right down there is the other nut, which is there. So that's on this side. The other one's right over here. Very easy. We're gonna go down there, loosen it, and we're gonna use a long telescoping magnet to reach down and pick it up. So I've got a longer 10-inch extension here. So we don't need to do the rear one, and we can do the front one. So I know you're saying this to yourself, like, oh, it looks like so much trouble. Why do I have to do all that? I mean, again, you know, but I honestly think it's better to do it, and it's really not that difficult. Look, see, now this thing is loose, and I can totally, like, look, this is kind of messed up right here. See if I can pull this off. Maybe not. Let's get the pick. Just gonna take these lines loose. Boom. So that line's off, and that is essentially the one on the right. I don't think it's gonna matter at all. See, I'm getting my pick inside, like between the line and the thing that it's connected to, just to kind of break the seal, and then I can just pull it right off. So boom. Now this can just lie over here, and now we can get this loose. Yep. And then this can just move over right here while we do what we need to do. And let's see, I'm gonna disconnect the little connector down on the bottom. All you do is push it in. This is the level sensor. All you do is push this tab on the back down, and that'll connect it off. Don't forget to reconnect it if you're gonna do that. I'm gonna pull off these vacuum lines from this, just so it's kind of okay. See, now this can just be right there, and now we got all the room in the world to work. Amazing, right? All right, let's start with the first one. This way we won't get confused. We'll just do one at a time. It feels like these lines have actually been replaced. That must have been why somebody was in here. These look newer, and they don't have the braided thing that these OEM lines seem to have. So again, I'm gonna do this thing where I reach the pickup under and just get it between them. That just helps me to hopefully break it loose. I didn't quite get it loose, but I was gonna try to tug on it. Now I'm gonna do this again, for real. This is not the ideal pick angle for this. I need something a little steeper, but boom, there we go. And then of course this one we already took loose, so we can just get that up there. This, you just push that connector to get it off, and this pulls off of there. Actually, that can stay in place because that's staying. There's a bolt here and there's a bolt right underneath it. Just reach down and feel it. This one, there's a little hole right here. That's where the bolt is. Little 10 mil. Looks like the thing is forked. So for the top one we need to get all the way off. Hopefully the bottom is forked as well, and we can just loosen it. Yep, just a little bit looser. A little more. Because of the shape of this, it might have to come all the way off. No, it can be, it's good. Here we go. All right, our new one, Pierberg, that's the OEM manufacturer. Slip that right down into place. Cool. Reconnect it there. And again, the little short line goes on this side, and then the input. This is the output. The input goes on the outside of the valve. And that is actually marked on the valve. I saw there is a little vacuum on the front one and out on the back one. Cool, now let's swap the back one. Super simple and easy DIY. Trick is just not getting the bolt all the way off. This time I did, not a big deal. All we have to do is reach down there and start it with our finger. Just a couple threads. All right, let's get the new one. Pop our new valve on. Since we're at sort of an angle, it's not going to drop. Just like that. Okay, let's go for underneath. Use the location of the top to kind of, imagine where the bottom one is. And that's how you find it. Okay, let's connect this back up. And then this line is right there. And we're done. Now it's a simple matter of reinstallation. Do not forget to reconnect the level sensor. Not gonna like yourself if you do. There's a little peg on the bottom of the thing. It goes into a little sort of green rubber grommet. That's easy to see. So look down, put it there. I don't know why, but it bothers me that this is not a BMW fastener. That's really stupid, but it does. I'll find another one and replace it. All right, so now we're gonna put these back into place. Kind of like that. And this time I'm gonna reach up from the proper side and reconnect these vacuum lines. So let's do the shorter one first. That one goes here. Make sure it's all the way connected. This one's here. So that goes down right there, and then this connected right here on the side of this. Cool. All right, now for the trick on getting this nut in without dropping it, without losing it. This is your free tip Friday, even though it's Saturday. Free tip Saturday. This is called the paper trick. You take some paper towel, put it over your bolt, just like that, the little tip. Shove the bolt into, or put it over your socket, shove the bolts in like that, and now the paper will prevent this from falling out. But once you thread it on, that's not the long enough extension. Once you thread it on, you'll be able to pull the socket off without any problems. You leave the bolt behind. So before we wrench that down, let's make sure we put this top one in. Otherwise this thing's gonna be out of place. All right, and now this one. Might have to wiggle your socket a little bit. And there we go. Yes, you leave the paper behind, but it'll fly away, or you can just reach down with some long pliers or something and get it. You don't even need long pliers. You can just do normal pliers, or possibly even your finger can get almost down there. Yeah, I can get it with my finger. There you go. All right, now we're done. Now, let's repeat our tests to see if we solved anything. So let me hook this up real quick. Let's get our meter in frame here. Let's do it. All right, let's do it. All right. That was like 4,000, 35, 35. That was like 63. That was red line. Let's switch the meter over and repeat our test. All right. 3,500, 4,000, 6,000. Red line. Well, there you have it. That result was different from the original bank 2 valve that we had in there. Now these two valves are operating identically, so now I believe we have fixed the problem. So the only thing left to do is go test drive this thing. All right, guys, I just got back from a test drive and the problem is indeed solved. What we saw on our original test was the valve is sitting at about 10 inches of mercury all the time, which means that the wastegates are closed. And then when I would rev it up, it would, the vacuum would spike and then it would just come back down to 10 inches of mercury. It wouldn't drop down to 0, which is atmospheric. So the wastegate wasn't opening on the rear wastegate wasn't opening. So that was causing the overboost condition. The engine was detecting that and it was reducing the power and flashing that symbol in the console. So Now we know how to accurately diagnose this problem. You know what a bad one looks like, and this can be useful if you only want to replace one of them, the one that's actually bad, because maybe you can't afford to replace both of them when you're doing it. But of course, I would recommend replacing both of them because it's very likely that the other one's going to go south pretty soon anyway. So, and if you're going to do that, make sure you get your parts from OEMBimmerParts.com. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.